Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of Paranormal Activity. Now this one was made in 2007 and was released in 2009. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's pretty much what I'm getting from the light amount of research I do for these reviews. Starring Katie Featherston and Mika Sloat, and was written and directed by Oren Peli. Now, just to hop into some real quick spoiler-free stuff, first of all, before I get into that, thank you, Boyd, for requesting this review over on the Instagram page at Days of Darkness 97. Please feel free to go over there and comment anywhere, DM me, request whatever. I put requests up on the stories, or you can request the movie however you want. I just want to see what you guys want to see me talk about. So, thank you to Boyd for requesting this one. Just to hop into some quick spoiler-free stuff, for real this time. First of all, I just want to talk about found footage as a subgenre of the horror genre. I really, really, really like the idea of found footage. I think there is a lot of potential with that subgenre, and I think a lot of people demonize this subgenre because, oh, it's just all fucking bullshit and it's all cheap, podunk, fucking horrible movies that are made for $1. Which there are those found footage movies. Just spit a little bit. That was gross. Anyways, there are plenty of those. I could think of several that are just not fucking good. But on the flip side of that, I think there are some phenomenal found footage horror movies. Legitimately. I think stuff like the Poughkeepsie tapes and Lake Mungo, which those two are a little different. They're not purely found footage. They're more of a documentary style. And not a lot of people know about those movies, especially like a casual horror fan. So I would highly recommend those, but we're talking about Paranormal Activity. But as far as pure found footage horror, I'm thinking Blair Witch. I'm thinking Gonjam Haunted Asylum, which is a Korean found footage horror movie that I fucking adore. I have my problems with it, but yada yada yada. And then obviously the Creep movies are fucking phenomenal. There's plenty of amazing found footage stuff to be had. I think of As Above, So Below as well. And I can just go on all day, you know. And then you have like the cyber found footage stuff, like what's the one called? The Den. The Den's really good, and Unfriended is fine. There's just so much good found footage horror though, and I don't think it deserves that asterisk it has on it of people just saying, oh, it's shit, it's trash, it's not real film. Not true. There are, like I said, there are plenty of casual filmmakers or amateur or however you want to say it that do these types of films and they fucking suck because they don't know how to do them. And as far as this movie as a found footage horror movie, I think it's one of the better ones. I wouldn't put it up there with like Creep or anything like that, but I think this remains rooted in that found footage style. There's no music. There's no music at all in this movie, which I fucking hate when found footage horror films do that. Which it's more than you would think. I'm like, why there should be no room for editing here. If it's found footage, there should be no editing whatsoever. Grave Encounters is another one. I'll stop listing found footage horror movies and talk about this one. But anyways, damn, my throat's still a little wonky. I have coffee today. Probably not as good as water, but we'll take it. Anyways, but yeah, man, I think this does a really good job of keeping kayfabe, if you will. It does a really good job of keeping that illusion of it really being footage that the police department found and is now being shown and distributed to a worldwide audience. Maybe that part's a little unrealistic, but you get what I'm saying. It does a really good job of presenting itself as reality. I think the performances here are good by Katie Featherston and Mika Scott. I keep wanting to say Scott. Mika Sloat. I think they're both as good as this film allows them to be. I do think there are times where, and it's not, I would not just solely place this on the actors at all, but there are times where certain things happen in this movie and certain revelations are, they find out certain things. And I think the reaction is downplayed a lot. That would be my one complaint as far as performances are concerned. And really, you could even chop that up to writing as well, is I feel like there's a big reveal that is just totally glossed over. And it's not really important when it really, really should be. But other than that, and I can't even blame that on the actors, really. I really like them in this. This movie, I remember when this movie came out. This movie came out in 2009. So that's over 10 years ago. That's 11 years ago. That is fucking wild to think about. And it was made in 2007. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that's kind of what I'm gathering from just everywhere I look up this movie. It says, made in 2007, released in 2009. So that's what I'm going off of. But this was released in 2009. And we were in an age of horror then where movies were starting to go viral. That was a big thing. And the marketing of horror movies was very blah. And it seems like, at least looking back, it seemed like every movie was supposed to be like, it was marketed as like the scariest movie of all time. And I'll tell you right now, this is not the scariest movie of all time. It's not. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a good movie. I have my problems with it, but I don't think it's anything fucking atrocious. But the scariest movie of all time, I get it. You're trying to put asses into seats. You're trying to sell. I understand that. That's just a lie, though. If you were to put this up against what many consider to be the actual scariest movie of all time, The Exorcist, no. It has its moments. It can be a little freaky, especially if you show this to someone who doesn't like horror, they'll get freaked out. I'm sure of it. But to me, it takes a lot to freak me out. And I'll tell you right now, not a single moment of this film freaked me out. Didn't when I first watched it in 2009, and it doesn't freak me out now. So, calling it the scariest movie of all time, no. That's not a real fault of the movie itself. I just wanted to talk about that marketing because it's like, not really. Overall, this movie, though, it's solid, but it's really nothing to write home about. I would not put this in my top 10 horror movies of all time. I probably wouldn't put this in my top 30. To me, there's an interesting story here, but there are key moments of that story that are not expanded on. There are key moments of this movie that they just do not expand on at all. And I think it hinders it a little bit. I think there's certain parts of this movie that should be of more importance and not just it's this and not this sort of thing. The only other real flaw, and you could say this about any fucking found footage horror movie, is there are certain moments of this movie where I don't think recording would be the most appropriate thing in the world to be doing. I get it. There has to be a little bit of suspension of disbelief. And I'm not about to just sit here and, that's so unrealistic. Like, it's a fucking horror movie. What do you want? But there are definitely moments where even for me, and I'm pretty good at suspending my disbelief. I mean, I watch, professional wrestling. It's kind of what I do. but but yeah, man, even for me, there are just certain moments of this film where it's like, maybe don't bring the camera with you. It's just not a good time, sort of thing. But other than that, I feel like I'm shitting on this movie a lot. This movie is fun. I would like if you're watching this with like your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and they scare easily, and it's a fun little spooky movie to put on, like at a party or something. But it's just another thing to wrap up the spoiler-free section. I promise, because we're going on like 12 minutes. I think this movie is too fast-paced. I think it fucking flies by. Now, I'm not asking for this movie to be 3 hours by any means. But that, again, kind of goes into I think there are certain moments of this film that should be expelled on more, if I'm using that word correctly. Enunciated, I'll say. I think there are certain aspects of this movie that should be more important. And we are going to get into those in the spoiler section. So I stop rambling. But alright guys, let's just go into it and let's spoil the shit out of this motherfucker. Alright, spoiler time, your ass has been warned. Now, let's just hop right into it. I love the opening of this. Very subtle, and again, this movie presents itself as a found footage horror movie. It presents itself as you are seeing things you are not supposed to be seeing. The whole, the Paramount Pictures would like to thank blah 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 police department for providing this footage, or whatever the fuck it says, but you get it. Like it presents itself as this film studio literally just got this footage from a police department, spliced it together, and released it. That's not what happened. Obviously, that would be, I imagine, illegal. But I really like when movies do that, when found footage horror movies do that, and they take that extra step to make you believe. Best example of that is Blair Witch. The marketing of that whole thing was genius, and I don't think that'll ever be replicated ever again. Just with how the internet is and everything. But for what this movie did, as far as, no one thought it was real or anything fucking stupid like that, but they did take that extra step, which I really admire. And then we get it's pretty much immediately established, because as soon as she sees the camera, it's established that, hey, we're gonna figure out what's going on. Is it a ghost? Is it just some kids from across the street breaking in, or whatever the fuck, or just fucking with her, or whatever. Mika has the camera, and it is immediately established that something is weird, which I like that. There are just some movies where the dude just starts recording for no fucking reason. And, like, someone asks, and the only thing we get is, oh, man, it's for memories. Oh, like, no, dude. Why are you fucking filming? Any of my friends watching this are probably going to laugh, because I had a habit of recording people, just, like, recording at lunch, just my friends doing stupid shit, and all that, which that might be a video that I put on here someday. You never know. All that useless recording might pay off, Chris. But in movies, it does not. And I want a reason why it is happening. And here it's given, It doesn't really excuse the problem of him recording when his, when his girlfriend is breaking down and having a complete panic attack from what all is going on. Maybe don't record then. Maybe don't bring the camera. Fuck the camera. Go take care of your girlfriend. But we'll get into Mika here in a little bit. It's then pretty much explained that Katie who's the girlfriend, has a lot of history with the paranormal, and she has had a lot of problems in her childhood, going into her adulthood, of something constantly following her wherever she goes. And I like that this movie, it's Katie. It's not the house, which I've listened to. I personally do believe in paranormal entities and stuff like that. So when I've listened to certain exorcists and demonologists and all of that, and they're saying that these entities have a habit of attaching themselves to people, not necessarily to houses. It can be either way, but I really, it's always a haunted house. It's never a haunted person, and Katie is being haunted by this thing. And that kind of then goes into a psychic comes in, kind of asks them some questions. Mika's being a dick, which I'll just go into it now. Mika's a fucking asshole, dude. Like, he's such a fucking dick at certain points in this movie, and all of a sudden he's just super nice. I'm fine with him being an asshole, but make it a little more consistent. I guess they were trying to convey, like, oh, he doesn't believe in it, which at first he doesn't. And then once the evidence is just too much, which happens pretty quickly, by like night 3, I think. Once he ends up not being able to deny it, he's still an asshole. And he's like doing everything that she asked him not to do. He gets a fucking Ouija board and he does all this stupid shit. And he's like antagonizing this thing. He's just an idiot. He's an idiot and he's a fucking dick, which is fine, but be consistent about it. And then blah, 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 blah. I can't talk. Because he's an asshole, and then all of a sudden he's just, oh, it's gonna be okay. And she's like coddling with him and like, oh, and like, this dude's an asshole. Like, I get it, they're in love and all that shit, but it's like, if you're gonna be an asshole, at least be a little consistent. And it's not the worst writing in the world, but it's just kind of like, this dude's just a fucking asshole. And it's like, you could have at least made him an asshole to where when he dies at the end, spoiler alert, it's a little satisfying, but you're not really sure how to feel about the guy because he's mostly a dickhead and an idiot. But then we're supposed to feel like, oh, they're so caring about one another and yada, yada, yada. But anyways, it is revealed from this psychic, after Mika's done being a fucking prick to him, that they are not dealing with a ghost, but they are dealing with a demon. And that he can feel a much more evil presence. And I like how demons are explained in this movie is they are beings that exist purely to do harm. They exist for no other purpose but to cause pain. And you would think that causes some, like, oh my god, what the fuck kind of shit. But they're not really that reactive to it. You would think the tone of the movie would immediately, like, and take a little jump just from that. It's like, oh, we're dealing with something fucking evil. It's not like some spirit of my grandma or fucking anything like that. Like, this thing wants to hurt me. But instead of them immediately taking it seriously, like I said before, Mika's antagonizing it, thinking he can, like, tough guy his way out of it. And even, like, then they're still just kind of, like, joking around at some points. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like once I find out I have a fucking demon in my house, and it's a demon that is fucking haunting me, I'm not really gonna be too quick to, like, haha, funny, joke around. Which they don't do a terrible lot of. But it's like, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I feel like that revelation should have sent this movie into overdrive. And it does in certain respects. Like, the scares in this movie are pretty solid. There's a lot of, like, jump scary shit and a lot of, like, ooh, the door moved, and just corny stuff like that, which I kind of made fun of in the intro. There's just a lot of stuff like that, though. But there are some really cool stuff. I love the moment. It's the scare of the film. Because, spoiler alert, we're not really going to have a kill of the film on this review, because there's only one death, and it's Mika, and he just gets... It's off screen, and he gets fucking thrown into the camera. That's it. And then she, like, possessed Katie comes up and, like, and smells him. That's it. But anyways, I love the shit with, like, the guy, like, the demon, like, dragging Katie out of bed, and then she, like, gets drug away from Mika, and he has to, like, run after her and try to, like, you know, save his girlfriend from this fucking demon. Shit like that is really, really cool. And then, like, we get the shit with him playing with her hair and all this really creepy shit. And, yeah, man, it's fucking wild. And as someone who has dealt with paranormal entities in his own life, I'm sure I might at one day talk about that sort of shit on here, but all that shit is real. Granted, I've never had something drag me across the fucking hallway or anything like that, but you know, I will save all of that for another video at another time. If you guys are interested in hearing about that, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to divulge. But anyways, we're not talking about that right now. But so from there, the scares just keep getting ramped up, and then Katie starts acting weird, and eventually she just becomes possessed, and she wants to leave, and then all of a sudden she wants to stay, and then Mika again is like just acting like a fucking prick as usual. He's just like, man, well, fuck this, like, you're fucking insane, and then he walks off, and then you hear the demon voice of, I think it says, like, everything's gonna be okay, and it's like two different voices coming out of her, that's pretty fucking cool. And then we get the ending of her standing there. That's another thing I love. I love the night shots of her just, like, standing for, like, multiple hours. Obviously, it's fast forwarded and stuff, but, like, there are, like, a couple moments in this film where she stands for, like, 3 hours. And it's like, you can already tell that this thing is taking a hold of her slowly. It's very, very cool stuff. And that's what I say. I know it sounds like I'm shitting on this movie. I'm not trying to. There's just a lot of shit wrong with it, in my opinion. But at the same time, you get really solid shit like that. I loved how this movie depicts what an evil, devious, horrible demon haunting you can do to your relationships. It rips people apart. And that's another problem I have with Mika. That's like the problem I have with Mika being a fucking asshole from the beginning of this movie. I much would have liked it if there was some solid relationship development between those two. It's clear that they love each other, and it's clear that they care about one another. But with a movie like this, where this family of two gets fucking torn apart, and it's sad, and it should be way sadder, but you don't really feel anything because you just hate Mika. I did, at least. And so, like, when all that shit goes down and he dies, I would much rather make my audience feel horrible for that. Because this woman can do nothing. She's possessed by this horrible demon. And then fucking she kills her fucking boyfriend. You know? And I wish there would have been some solid character development or relationship development between those two. I wish they would have made Mika a more solid support system for her, and more understanding and more accepting, and less of a fucking dickhead, so that ending would be more impactful. But it's not. So she ends up, you know, just standing there for multiple hours, walks downstairs, yells for Mika. He obviously, in one of his more admirable traits, he fucking runs after her and tries to help her, and she kills him. We don't get any of that on screen, which is fine. In a movie like this, I don't expect a gore fest. And she just fucking throws him. Or the demon, I should say. Just throws him into the camera, and then we get our little, like, stupid, like jump scare at the end of looking at the camera and being like, boo! Which I fucking hate that shit. That stuff will never be scary to me. It's just not. The Scare Me scared me when I was like a little kid, and like that whole fucking craze, but it's just dumb. Cool ending though. Like, it, for what it is, it's fine. I just think if they would have made certain tweaks to the script and would have handled things a little differently with the story, I think this would be way farther up my list of like horror movies, especially found footage. But, you know, again, I don't mean to shit on this movie. I think you can watch this and have a good time. I don't think it's a waste of time or anything like that. Some of the later sequels, those are just fucking wastes of time. But, and also a little shout out to, I think the first 4 sequels, no, because of the sequels. The first 2 sequels do a pretty good job of kind of going into more detail on that story, which I fucking adore. I really like that they kind of stick to that story, and then later on they kind of get a little off that shit, which is like, it's not Paranormal Activity anymore. I want to know what happens to Katie's family, and how, you know, I think we get to see like her as a child in the 3rd one. Which, who knows, I might talk about those films as well, because I'm kind of in the mood to watch them. So, who knows, we might do that at a later date. But anyways, that'll pretty much wrap it up. Like I said, no kill of the film section for this one. It's not really needed. There's no kills in this movie, really. And yeah, that'll do it, guys. Thank you for coming. It feels weird. I'm used to, like, saying, like, we gotta get into the blood and the guts, but there's none of that here. But, however, on our next, on our next review, that is the complete opposite. Shout out to Keandre, one of my childhood friends, for requesting this one, because next time, guys, we're going to be talking about Wrong Turn, one of my fucking favorite slasher movies, and you're going to find out why, because I'm not going to ramble about it here. But, alright, guys, thank you for stopping by, as always. Thank you for supporting this channel, and take care of each other, and keep watching horror. Alright, guys, peace.